The countryside is peaceful, until it's not. These stories come from people who found out what hides beyond the quiet hills and empty roads. Mind twist horrors. Real stories. Real fear. Story 1. The Lantern by the Fence. This happened to my uncle back in 2016. He's not the type to scare easy. Military background, worked in security, seen things that'd mess most people up, but even now, he won't stay near that cabin. He built it himself. About a 30-minute drive from the nearest tarred road. No power grid, no neighbors, barely any reception. Just silence, wind, and bushland. One evening in October, he was out back checking his crops when he saw it, a dim light, flickering near the rear fence. At first, he thought it was a neighbor's lantern, maybe someone passing through. But no one should have been out there. Not that late. And not on his land. He grabbed his flashlight and approached slowly. The light didn't move, just flickered. When he got closer, it vanished. Gone. No sound, no movement. But what was strange, right there in the grass, was an old lantern. A proper vintage one. Glass cracked, rust around the handle. It hadn't been lit for years, maybe decades. But it was warm, not hot, just faintly warm. Like someone had just set it down minutes ago. He took it inside, set it on the table, and didn't think much of it until the next night. Around 1:30 a.m., his dog started barking like mad. Not playful barking, the deep, warning kind. My uncle got up, grabbed his flashlight and machete, and stepped outside. There it was again. Same faint lantern glow. Same spot. But this time, the back gate was wide open. He swore he locked it. Always did. Living out there, he had to. He shined his light toward the gate, no movement. Just tall grass swaying in the breeze. He walked out, slowly, past the fence, following the grass trail the lantern seemed to leave behind. Just faint indentations in the dirt. He went maybe 15 feet out before he noticed something wrong. There were footprints. But only one set. Barefoot. Deep. And they weren't walking, they were dragged. Suddenly, the wind picked up. His flashlight started flickering. He turned around and walked straight back, locked the gate, and didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he checked where the lantern had been the first night. This time, there was something else, a single sheet of paper pinned to the fence with a thorn. On it, written in charcoal or ash, were the words, "You took what was hers." He still doesn't know what it meant. But after that day, the lantern kept showing up. 4 or 5 nights straight. Always in the same spot. Always lit. No sign of who brought it. The final night, he followed the trail again. Only this time, it ended at a tree stump. And sitting on the stump, was the lantern. Still glowing. And behind it, a woman. Thin, wrapped in white. Head tilted. No eyes. He doesn't remember running. Only waking up in his cabin, with the front door wide open, and the lantern placed gently at his bedside. He packed up and left the next morning. Never went back. The cabin's still there, but nobody lives in it anymore. Sometimes, the locals say they still see the glow near the fence, but they don't go near it. Story 2. The Man Behind the Farmhouse. This happened to a girl named Hannah, about 5 years ago. She grew up visiting her grandparents' farm in rural Missouri, a peaceful patch of land just outside a town called Westwood Hollow. No one really talks about that place anymore. After both her grandparents passed, the property was left untouched. But when Hannah turned 20, she decided to go back, just for a weekend. She thought it'd be quiet, nostalgic, maybe even healing. The farmhouse was exactly how she remembered it, wood creaking with every step, the old fireplace smell still lingering, photos still on the walls like time had stopped. Out back, tucked behind a shed, was a small guest house, where a man named Walter used to live. He worked the land for her grandparents, stayed on the property year-round. When she arrived, she saw someone standing near the guest house. Tall, older, wearing an old denim jacket and work boots. He didn't wave. Just looked at her. After a long pause, he finally said, "You're back. You sure that's wise?" She brushed it off. Figured he was just some caretaker the family hired to keep the place clean. That first night was calm, until she woke up around 2:30 a.m. to the smell of burning wood, but there was no fire. Just that sharp, old scent, like something had been smoldering in the walls. She walked downstairs and froze. The back door was unlocked. She was sure she'd locked it. On the table was an old, rusted key she'd never seen before. She looked out the back window. Standing by the tree line was the same man from earlier. Still watching. She tried calling out, but he turned and walked into the woods. Slowly. Deliberately. She didn't sleep again that night. In the morning, she went to the guest house to ask who he was. But it was empty. Dust covered. Nothing lived there. The bed hadn't been touched in years. There were cobwebs in the sink. But on the wall, scratched into the wood, was a name. Walter. March 4, 1996. That night, it got worse. Around 3:12 a.m., she heard footsteps upstairs, even though she was sleeping on the ground floor. Slow, heavy steps. Then a knock on her bedroom door, from the inside of the hallway. When she opened the door, no one was there. But muddy boot prints led down the stairs, and out the back door. Same pattern as the night before. The next morning, Hannah left. Drove 6 hours back to Indiana without telling anyone what happened. But a week later, her aunt called. She'd gone to check the farmhouse and found the same rusted key, left on Hannah's bed. The property's still in the family. But nobody stays there anymore. Not since they found the old caretaker's death certificate, Walter L. Mason. Died in 1997. Buried 200 yards behind the guest house. Story 3. The silence past the cornfield. This story came from a guy named Eric. He moved to Westwood Hollow in 2021, same rural town Hannah's family farmhouse was in. He didn't know about the place's history. He just wanted to start over. Get away from city life. Rebuild. He found a cheap rental, a small one-story house at the edge of an overgrown cornfield. The price was suspiciously low, but the landlord said it was just old and lonely. First few days were peaceful. Long walks. Quiet evenings. But around the fourth night, Eric noticed something strange. He was on his porch around 11 p.m. when he saw it, a figure walking along the tree line past the corn. Not toward the house. Just pacing. At first, he thought it was a local farmer. But something was off. The man never turned. Never changed pace. Just walked the same slow path, over and over. Then, the pacing stopped. And the figure turned. Stared straight at him. Even from that distance. Eric swore the man was smiling. The next morning, Eric went to check the edge of the field. No footprints. Just dry, cracked soil. But wedged in the wire fence, was a single, black button. Old. Like from a suit jacket. He kept it. Tossed it in a drawer. Thought it was weird but harmless. That night, he dreamed of the man. Standing in his kitchen. Smiling. He woke up gasping, and found dirt on the floor near the back door. Not footprints. Just a fine trail of soil, leading to the drawer where he left the button. Over the next few days, things escalated. Every night, he'd hear knocking. Not at the front. Not even at a door. Just knocking. Sometimes behind the walls. Sometimes beneath the floor. One night, around 3 a.m., he looked out and saw something that still shakes him when he talks about it. Across the cornfield, near the tree line, were rows of people. All standing. Not moving. Just facing his house. Dozens of them. Like they'd just emerged from the field. Pale faces. Blank eyes. He blinked, and they were gone. He tried to get help. Drove to town the next morning, told a woman at the diner what he saw. She just stared at him for a long time, then said, "You shouldn't go near the corn after dark." He asked why. She paused. Then said, "Because that's where they put them." He pressed her, but she refused to say more. Everyone in town seemed to shut down the moment he brought it up. A week later, he went out for one last walk. Just to prove to himself he wasn't crazy. He brought his phone. His flashlight. Even said aloud, "Show me." He walked along the fence line for almost 20 minutes. Nothing. Just the wind. But as he turned back, he noticed a new row of corn stalks had grown behind him. Tall. Fresh. Blocking his path. He tried pushing through, but the corn was too dense. And from somewhere inside it, he swears he heard whispering. Not in English. Not even human. He made it back. Shaken. Pale. Packed everything. Moved out that night. When he came back to the rental a few days later with his brother, the house was gone. The cornfield had swallowed it. No structure. No porch. Just rows of tall stalks, swaying like they were hiding something beneath them. The countryside is supposed to be quiet, peaceful, forgotten. But sometimes, the silence doesn't mean safety. It means something's watching, and it's just waiting for you to notice. You've been watching Mind Twist Horrors. And if you're still listening, maybe it's already too late.